moment, we acknowledge the challenges that arise from the gradual fading of memories, the shifts in cognition, and the emotional toll it takes on those affected. Let us take a moment to honor the strength and resilience of those facing this journey and the unwavering dedication of their caregivers and support networks. May we extend our hands and hearts, offering solace, companionship, and unconditional acceptance throughout their experiences. In this space of compassion, let us recognize the importance of fostering a society that embraces inclusivity and compassion for all, regardless of their mental abilities. May we strive to create environments that cater to the unique needs of individuals living with dementia, ensuring their dignity and agency remain intact. As we witness the challenge and triumphs that come with this condition, we may find inspiration in the moments of connection that surpass the boundaries of memory. Let us celebrate the small victories, the shared laughter, and the love that transcends time limitations. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'd like to welcome our guests today. If you are a guest today, can you please stand and be welcomed by our club? Thank you. And as an extra special guest, we have John Williams with Palm Springs Rotary Club. And we've exchanged flags. Very nice. And John and I had a nice conversation this morning, and we've decided that their club is going to do a fundraiser and put up a big sign that says Palm Springs, the Yakima of California. He just doesn't know it yet, but that's our next project. I wanted to share with you that last week at the Rotary Trust celebration, it truly was a wonderful time. And just the spirit and the excitement of being there in person was so wonderful. And I want to tell you that we had a total of 71 downtown Rotarians who attended. That does not include spouses, does not include any guests, but we were well represented. So I was just so excited to see you all. And I don't know if Brad Kessinger and Jim DeGrasse are here, but the three of us were bartenders that night. So we've decided, we had a ton of fun. And there's some added benefits to being the bartender, right? You know, you kind of pour these drinks on the side, but we're going to take it on the road, so you'll see us at other events around the county. And Brad doesn't know it yet, but we're going to do that. Last week, at our last meeting, I talked about how August 3rd, we're going to be doing a service project, filling backpacks, I think 550 of them, with supplies to supply backpacks and school supplies for all of the kids at Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School. And I got to tell you, I am so proud to be a part of this club because we raised in that one day, that one moment, $4,290. That is amazing. So we only need a little over 1,000. So if you didn't get a chance to make a contribution, there is a sign up on the table that it is to sponsor one child is $10, and every sponsorship counts. But I'm just amazed. One day, look at what we've been able to accomplish. There is also another volunteer opportunity. If you weren't at the first meeting where I talked about the year, one of the things I talked about was how important it is to step outside of our Rotary box and really be visible out in the community, even if it isn't a Rotary-sponsored event. And there's a really important health screening event that is coming up on August 5th. It's called Fiesta de Salud. And they've done it several years since 2007. They had a hiatus during COVID, but they're going to be sponsoring this they're going to be hosting this at the Rotary Marketplace. And the things that they do is that they have an opportunity for anyone to come and get free health screening, free health resources. So they'll do blood pressure checks, cholesterol, diabetes, Zumba dancing, music, and other resources available, even a portable dental truck. And usually there's about 500 or more people in the community that attend this. So on your table, if you're interested in volunteering, there's 2-hour shifts throughout the day. And if you do have the time to volunteer, be sure to wear a Rotary shirt, because people will ask you about Rotary, and you'll have an opportunity to show that we're out in the community helping. One last announcement before we move forward is it was brought to my attention that Hal Bryan, who was an honorary Rotarian, passed away earlier this month. And I just want to acknowledge him and take a moment of silence to remember Hal and to send loving thoughts to his family. Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Rebecca Pinnell to make an announcement about National Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you.
Thank you, President Aaron. Good afternoon, Rotarians. I am here on behalf of Sonia Rodriguez-True, who is out of town today. As many of you know, every year Sonia works really hard putting together presentation for Hispanic American Heritage Month. We have a Rotary presentation, and her goal this year is to not only have a speaker, but have a true celebration. She often labors a lot of this on her own. So in some ways, I think it's good that I'm making this announcement to ask all of you if we can come out and help Sonia this year in helping plan not only the speaker, not only the day, but also some activities to represent Downtown Rotary well throughout Hispanic American Heritage Month, which runs from mid-September to mid-October. There will be a meeting after next week's Rotary regular downtown meeting. Sonia will be here for that, so I would ask all of you to reserve a little bit of time after next week's meeting and come help Sonia out. Thanks.
This got turned off. Thank you, Rebecca. Next, Dan Sullivan for our Board Treasurer's Report.
Good afternoon. President Aaron, fellow Rotarians and guests, thank you for giving me some time at the podium. This afternoon, I am representing the Board of Trustees as the Board Treasurer for the current Rotary year 2023-2024. As the Treasurer, one works very closely with Carolyn and the Board on the accounting for the economic activities of both our club, Yakima Downtown Rotary, and our charity, Yakima Rotary Charities. Carolyn, with the support of the board, does an incredible job running these two organizations efficiently and cost-effectively. Both Carolyn and the board are very conscious of maintaining the fiscal health of the club while also trying to maintain and keep membership affordable and accessible. As a board, we have had numerous discussions and continue to have discussions to explore innovative ways to control cost, find new revenue streams, and to improve the overall affordability of club membership. This work is ongoing, and we have more work to do. The backdrop for these discussions, however, has been the recent spike in inflationary forces in the economy, which we have not avoided. We have seen our cost structure expand. The major cost of running the club, wages, rents, Rotary International and district dues, and meals have not been immune to these inflationary forces. Prices have gone up dramatically since the last time we adjusted our membership fees. As such, we find ourselves in the position where we feel it's prudent to adjust the fees we assess members. Beginning with this year, we are increasing the amount we will bill for both meals and for our membership dues. By way of reference or reminder, the current cost to an active member, excluding our obligation for scholarship dinners, is $1,390 a year. That's broken out $910 for meals, $480 for dues. These rates have been the same for a number of years. We last increased meals in 2013, so 10 years ago, and we last increased membership dues in 2019. Beginning with this year, the amounts each of us will be billed for our meals will go from $17.50 a meal to $19 a meal. This is an 8.5% increase. To minimize the impact of the per meal increase, we are going to reduce the number of meals we bill each quarter from 13 meals a quarter to 12 meals a quarter. As such, the total cost of meals on an annual basis will only go up marginally from $910 to $912. We are also adjusting what we charge memberships, what we charge for membership dues. Membership dues will go from $480 a year to $540 a year. This is a 12.5% increase, $15 a quarter, $5 a month. So bottom line, the cost of membership, excluding the requirements to support our charity, will go from $1,390 per year to $1,452 a year, an increase of 4.5%, $62 a year, or just a little bit over $5 a month. Raising prices is uncomfortable. The leadership of the club recognizes that any increase in costs can be hard for some to bear, so we do so reluctantly. We also recognize that we compete with many of the expenses that each of us have, and as such, we need to continue to improve the value proposition of being a member of Downtown Rotary. Should you have questions or concerns about these adjustments, please feel free to reach out to me or any member of the board. We'd be happy to discuss it with you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan. He is a great treasurer and really does a nice job in spelling that out. And I want to just also echo that decisions like this are never easily made. There was and continues to be much debate at the board level, which is a good thing, that people are challenging each other. We're looking at how are other clubs working through this inflationary time, and we don't stop doing that. So I want you to know that this is something that will continue to be a discussion throughout the year on the board, and I also know throughout Jim's year when he transitions into president and the person who's after him. Thank you for that, Dan. And like he said, if you have any questions, his cell phone's in the blue book. Call him 24 hours. Next, I'd like to invite Doug Rich up for Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you, President Aaron, very much. Okay, show of hands. Whoever was idiotic enough to be in Seattle last weekend, please raise your hand. What the heck were you people thinking? I mean, you had Mariners playing Toronto, a WNBA game, Bite of Seattle, the Capitol Hill block party, and I understand there was a music thing. So fun, okay. And oh, by the way, 520 was closed, so if you did raise your hand to be in Seattle, please pay $1. Okay, so Rebecca, what was the name of the concert? By? And so that means, as a follower of Taylor, you would be known as a Swiftie. Wow, how about that? Now, she might be a little concerned about using that name when she goes to Australia next February, because in Australia, a Swiftie is somewhat of a grifter, somebody that rips people off. So hopefully they'll understand. But, you know, I was just thinking about if all of her followers were called Swifties, I wonder what some of our Rotarians' followers might be called. Now, I'm sure a lot of you saw Quinn and Amy at the concert as well, sitting right up front. Of course, Quinn's followers would be called the Dollins. Amy's might be called the Maybes, perhaps. But I thought of a few others. I mean, you know, Felix Rifa, my buddy back there. What would Felix's be called? The Friendlies. So pay $1 for that shameless promotion, please. And of course, the Piccati Paparazzi would be another following group. And even past President Jennifer's group, what do you think yours might be called? How about the Blees Disciples? Ooh, so pay $1 at this table down here, with the exception of our guest from Palm Springs. And then who can leave my friend Harry Hellison out of this badness? But if you're a Harry follower, what are you known as? Hellraiser, good. Or I was going to go with Hellions, but I like Hellraiser better. So if you're a bona fide Hellraiser, please pay $1. And it got me to thinking about what are other groupings in the Wild Kingdom known for? I mean, you know, does anyone know what a grouping of vultures is called? And don't say car salesman. Do we know? Murder of crows, but vultures are a committee. Yes. And otters and beavers or other water-dwelling mammals would be known as a lodge. So there you go. See if we can guess this one. I'm gonna ask this table to guess right down here, Celia's table. What do you call a grouping of lizards? Are you ready? A lounge. Lounge lizards. So please pay $1. Please pay $1. And of course, everyone knows what baboons are, right? I mean, they are loud, obnoxious, pushy. They're just mean-spirited. What is a grouping of baboons known as? Well, you're exempt from fines, but that one is known as a congress, which explains a hell of a lot, doesn't it? So no more for names. I was trying to think of one for President Aaron, but rather than President Aaron's followers, I thought maybe we'd do some President Aaron walk-up music from 1990. Everyone knows who MC Hammer is, right? So if you know the lyrics, please sing along. Da-na-na-na, na-na, na-na, it's nap time.
Thank you, Doug. I always love your energy. So next, we have our speaker introduction. So Ken Marble, please join me.
Thank you, Aaron. So our speaker today, Mandy Ketchum, actually spoke here about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. Her talk got kind of abbreviated, and so we've invited her back. But how many of you remember that? And how many don't remember that? Okay. Mandy, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. Well, Mandy's been employed in the senior healthcare industry for over 20 years, and almost 18 of those serving as at Highgate Senior Living, serving as their community relations coordinator. She started working in the industry as a single mom and just needed a job. As she worked her way up in the senior care healthcare industry, she found a passion for helping those with dementia and their families. One thing you should know about Mandy is she's not one to back down from a challenge. At age 16, pregnant with her first son, she was told she wouldn't graduate and wouldn't amount to anything. Graduating with her class on the honor roll with extra credits, Mandy has now become a wonderful role model for young mothers. Mandy's married to Jeff. They have an 11-year-old daughter. Her 2 older boys are now 28 and 25 and have wonderful families. And she's the grandmother of 2 beautiful grandchildren. So today, Mandy is here to talk about dementia. It's a scary word, especially as we get older. Do I have it? How do I determine if I have it? Can I remember if I have it? So what are the options for long-term care for myself or for those who I love? And Mandy has had a goal and a passion to learn as much as she can about dementia, how it affects the brain, the body, and relationships between people. She's a certified PAC, which is a positive approach to care trainer, and a VDT, which is virtual dementia tour certified facilitator and trainer, the only one in Washington State. She's an expert resource for our valley on this topic of dementia. She is actively involved with other healthcare professionals in networking. A lot of times I see Mandy and she's at a meeting with other professionals or at a community gathering like we're going to have up at the marketplace. I've known Mandy for 3 years. My parents were at a point in their life where they needed to move from independent living to assisted living. And Rick Pinnell, who set up this program today, told me about his mom being at Highgate and what wonderful care she received there. So I went to visit Mandy, and as we chatted about my parents and the options they had as seniors, I was struck by her passion and her dedication to the people, the residents there, particularly those with memory care issues. And much to my surprise, I was just amazed at how much she loved her work. So in addition to discussing dementia and its treatment, I've asked Mandy to explain the difference between living situations available to those of us who are aging, what the different options are, independent living, assisted living, what all that entails. Some of you may be interested for yourself, some for loved ones. It took me a while to sort out the path, but Mandy was a great resource for me to turn to. So let us welcome Mandy Ketchum as our speaker today.
right, well, thank you guys so much for having me back. And if you don't remember, then I know who you are, because I do remember who did not raise their hand. And so I do want to say, though, as I'm going through the slides, if you have any questions, please ask them right away, because you will forget. Because when I move on, your question will also move on. So please don't hesitate to raise your hand and ask that question. And I may say that it's in my slide, we'll talk about it a little bit later. But one thing I do realize of myself is that I love to talk, and I know no small audience. So I'm hoping to get through all of my slides today. All right, so as Ken had said, that we are going to talk about, is it Alzheimer's? I kind of joke, is it sometimers? Because we don't forget all the time, just sometimes. Or is it maybe something else that's not even related to dementia? What can we do about it? Is there a cure? How do you talk to someone who has dementia? That's really hard. And that's actually my passion, is to help bridge that gap together so that we can have a relationship with someone who has dementia. And then housing options. Where do you even start, and how do you even look for housing? All right, so you already know kind of my background. So what we need to learn first is if something's normal or not normal, right? So how many of you have ever forgot your keys, where you put them? Right? All of us. Your wallet, your glasses, your TV remote, something. That's actually normal. Do you all know what to do with your keys? Right? Everyone has driven here, so you know what to do with your keys. So forgetting your keys is normal. Not knowing what to do with those keys is different. So when we occasionally forget things, there's a reason for that. Maybe we're stressed out. Maybe we put them in a place that we normally don't put them. And so our brain automatically goes to something that's familiar. So when we put it in an unfamiliar place, that's not the box or the file cabinet. And if you remember last time we had all those file cabinets on my presentation, we didn't put it in the same file cabinet as we normally would for our memory. So that's okay. But also, how many of you have ever forgotten an appointment? I know I have. The doctor calls and says, hey, you forgot your appointment. When you don't even remember that you even made the appointment or who the doctor is, then we have kind of an issue. Difficulty performing familiar tasks. Now, this does not mean that when you come in here and you have a task and you go, oh, I forgot to do this one little thing, that's okay. But for an example is when you are cooking a meal and you forget key ingredients for the cake, key ingredients for the lasagna. It's not forgetting to place an extra plate for somebody, not forgetting that you had an extra guest coming over, but things that you typically could do on a normal basis that you're forgetting those little steps. Confusion about time and place. I know I run late, I'm a Gemini, and I think I can do just one more thing, right? I multitask very well, but complete nothing at 100%. But confusion about time and place is completely different. So what typically happens with someone who has dementia is they'll wake up from a nap at 2 o'clock and they think it's 2 a.m., not 2 p.m. Clearly, if you woke up at 2 a.m., it would look different outside, correct? They don't recognize that difference. So confusion of time and place is different. They also don't recall if, let's say they're walking through the house, they go, where's the bathroom at? I don't know where the bathroom's at. Well, when did you change the bathroom location? It's never been down that hallway. Well, we only have one hallway, and there's only 3 doors. So they get confused on where the placement of something is. Now, for us, confusion about time and place, how many of you have ever been driving and you go, gosh, was I supposed to turn down that road or this road? Right? We all are very familiar with Yakima. It's a very small town, so we should be able to get from point A to point B very successfully, but sometimes we get sidetracked. That's okay. So how many of you got sidetracked today on the way here? Who wants to admit it, right? You guys are still normal. All right, so problems with language. This is hard. I know How many of you forget people's names? And you see them in a store and you go, oh, no, 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 what's their name, what's their name? And you go down a whole different aisle until you can figure out their name, and you hope you don't run into them. That's okay, because again, when we looked at those file cabinets, you don't know where you placed their name, and you're seeing them in a whole different environment. So that file cabinet doesn't recognize that name or that person's face. On the Today Show many years ago, they had some tips on how to remember someone's name. And they'll go, well, hi. Oh, you know what? I was just telling someone how you spelt your name. How did you spell your name again? Right? Hopefully, they don't say Tom, Sue, Pam. But if they do, I have a trick. You go, no, 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 your last name. So hopefully they don't say Smith, right? But some pretty cool tips on how, or hopefully you have a spouse or someone with you. You can go, hey, this is so-and-so, and then they introduce themselves. So forgetting someone's name in an unfamiliar environment is actually very normal. The language part that we're looking at is when they start to place words in not the right order, or they misspell words, or they say, you know that thing where every morning you come in here and you open it up, and we keep cold stuff, and then you pour, it has that stuff in it, and I don't like that stuff. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Orange juice. But my language ability is lost. So I can't recognize refrigerator, orange juice. These are all nouns, and nouns leave. We no longer have the capability of producing nouns. I can talk around. So here's my noun, but I'm talking around that noun as far as possible so that you could understand what I'm getting at. That's dementia. Not forgetting somebody's name, not forgetting a word, not forgetting what you're saying in the middle of a sentence. Okay, so we're still normal, right? Everyone's still normal, right? But can you recognize maybe someone who has dementia, what's the difference is so far? Problem with abstract thinking. So managing finances. How many of you still do a checkbook? Yeah, not a whole lot, but you have that down. And if you have a bunch of receipts, especially if you own a business, you have a bunch of receipts, sometimes managing those financings can get a little bit more complicated, but you still know how to do the task. Trouble knowing what the numbers mean is dementia. So even if you wrote down, if you said, 60 plus 45, okay, 6, okay, 4, 6, 6, 6. Was I starting at 7? Was it 7? Do you see what the difference is of not being able to track a bunch of receipts versus understanding a number? When we do what's called a MOCA assessment, we ask them to subtract from 100, and they have to say 100, by 7. Which, I know some of you are like, oh, I can't do that at all. You could. I promise you can. I promise you can. Just split it into 4 and 3, or 3 and 4, right? That's your trick. So if I ever do a MOCA with you, split it from 4 and 3. But knowing the number, so what they'll do is they'll say, all right, 193. So the first one's almost always easy. 93, 100. Well, that's going to be minus. Do you get where they don't understand the numbers? That's different. Poor or decreased judgment. How many of you have received scam calls? How many of you said, no, that's a scam, right? Either I need your Social Security, your Medicare has been canceled, your grandson is in hiatus in jail because he did something wrong. And you go, well, no, that's not. I know a scam from a scam. We've had so many people come because they've been scammed or because they're in the middle of a scam and they don't understand the judgment. They can't, or driving. It's not even getting lost. It's the judgment. So have you been behind someone who drives really slow? I call them Sunday drivers. Or someone who stops at a red light and they're not even on the sensor, right? Because their judgment is off. It's not even their mental capacity judgment, but it's their visual judgment at the same time. So being able to judge a red light from a green light, from someone walking up in front of them, from poor judgment behavior as in getting scammed. There's so many different things. For us, we may go, well, I made a bad judgment call. I'm not going to do that again. Someone who has dementia doesn't even recognize that their judgment was even off. Problem misplacing things. Now, we talked about this, losing our keys, our glasses, but we still know, right, what to do with those things. But we also will find inappropriate items, things that should be in the refrigerator, in the cabinets. We find things underneath mattresses. We misplace them because in my brain, if I have dementia, I'm probably back in my 20s. And if I'm 90, but I think I'm 20, I probably stuffed everything under my mattress, right? Or I stuffed it in the back of a closet. Because, you know, those gypsies, they come every single night, and they're going to take that from me, so I'm going to hide it. And then what we do is when I'm misplacing things, I'm going to blame somebody else for it, because I can't track my steps backwards to find my missing object. Changes in personality and behavior. Now, we do what's called the GEMS, and it's different stages. And the diamond gem is the hardest one because we're all diamonds. If I said, you, I can't believe you did that. What does that happen? What happens to you? You want to become defensive, right? You become a diamond because a diamond cuts, right? And how is a diamond formed? Under pressure, right? So we all can become diamonds, but someone who is a diamond normally under pressure becomes a diamond all the time. Their behavior changes, and that becomes their behavior all the time. We have some that say, man, I got a phone call today, and the gentleman said, my wife and I have not had, the best relationship, but now she just wants to be with me all the time. That's a change in behavior. I don't know how to deal with that. Or they become mean. Not everybody does, and that is a misrepresentation of what dementia is. Not everybody is mean. And they're not even mean. It's a reaction to what they no longer can do. So we don't even call it a behavior, right? We call it a reaction. Because if you're telling me I can't drive and I can't, take my own meds and I can't cook anymore and I can't vacuum and I can't do what I've always done and I know that I think I know that I can do that, I'm going to have a reaction to that, right? If I closed that door and said, guess what? None of you can leave today. Would you all have a reaction? Yeah. So it's the same reaction that someone with dementia has, but we blame it as a behavior. So they have change in behavior because their brain is changing and they no longer can cope. They also swear. If you all remember from last time, that's a part of their brain that's preserved. So they will end up swearing. And we have these cute little ladies that were church ladies and, moms that raised kids, and they've never sworn a day in their life. And now that is their vocabulary. I had some LaSalle students, or some Christ the Teacher students come, and 7th graders, and before I could tell them about what happens in our cottage, I have this lady, and she is the cutest little thing, and she says, did you know I kickbox? I'm like, yeah. That son of a bitch, I'm gonna just get him next time. And we're like, whoa, and these 7th graders' eyes are like this. I said, oh yeah, by the way, they swear sometimes. And we just have to ignore it, and we move on. Because if we give them that attention of it, then they're going to keep doing it. And they're going to keep doing it anyways, but we don't need to exacerbate and keep going with this behavior. So we're just going to go, oh, hey, I actually love soccer. Did you ever play soccer? And then we just keep moving on. So change in behavior is normal with dementia. Again, we all have a change in behavior in this situation, but we don't stay in that behavior. And then the last one for not normal versus normal is loss of initiative. For us, sometimes we just feel blue, right? Sometimes we love this group, but I just can't do it today. I really want to go visit my friends and do social hour, but I just can't do that today. That's normal. with someone who has dementia, and this goes for all types of dementia, is that they just can't initiate that next step. And if I ask, do you want to? They'll say no, because I don't know what the expectation is. How do I arise to an expectation that I don't know what is out there for me? So I'm not going to initiate. And this goes with everything. This goes with brushing our teeth. How many steps do you think it takes to brush your teeth? Just blurt out numbers. 10? 36. Actually, you know what? 36 is probably a closer answer than anything else. So if I ask you to brush your teeth and you have dementia, would you go brush your teeth? Probably not. Because first of all, where do you put your toothbrush? In a drawer. Where do you have your toothbrush? In a drawer. I have mine on the counter. Where do you have yours? Okay. Under the mattress. So we all know when there's happy hour at his house where we're going to be going. All the good stuff's there. So what happens is if it's in a drawer, it's out of sight, out of mind. How do I know to even look in that drawer for that toothbrush? But to even get to the drawer, I have to get to the right door to get into the bathroom. Do you see, like, those steps we don't even consider? So the sequencing, the initiation of a task is so hard. I'd rather just say no and just sit. I'm going to sit and watch because that's my comfort zone, and there's zero expectation of me. That's dementia. Not going, well, I just don't feel like being social today. I don't feel like doing what I need to do today. That's normal. We all have that. Okay, so if it's not dementia, then what else could it be? Hard of hearing. Because that's a whole different part of the brain. Comprehension and hearing are in two different parts of your brain. And then we also have our eardrum. So it's a lot of complicated parts in our head that we have to figure out if it's hard of hearing or is it comprehension loss. So always get your hearing checked and get the appropriate hearing aids. If you have hearing aids and you're still not comprehending, those are two different things. Is it stress? Are you overwhelmed with task, with life, with what's going on? That will fog up your brain in an instant. This is what happens when you go to the grocery store and you freak out because you can't remember someone's name. Or I know me, when I have a conversation with somebody and I'm talking about a really cool vacation I had with my best friend, and they go, what's your best friend's name? And I go, oh. Well, we've been best friends for 30 years. How come I can't remember her name? Because in that moment of stress, what happens to our veins, it just goes like this, and we don't get oxygen and blood to our brain. And so we freeze up. So stress and being overwhelmed can definitely cause dementia-like symptoms. Medication interaction. You know when they say, if you take this medication, stay away from A, B, and C, right? That's so true. We've had people come into Highgate that are on like 5 and 6, and I see some doctors in here, 5 or 6 blood pressure medications. As soon as we take them off their unnecessary medications, not that they don't have dementia, but they're actually better, right? They're more clear. So medication can definitely be a factor that looks like dementia. If you have a question, what I always do is bring all your medications and vitamins over the counters, bring them to your pharmacist or your physician and say, all right, here's what I'm taking. Because sometimes the doctors don't realize what you're taking over the counter, and it could interact with what you're taking that they prescribed. Depression. How many of you have ever been depressed? I bet you all of us have. Every single person in this room has been depressed, and I'm not saying you are depressed as in depression, but a situation has happened, right? And you go, wow, that is such a bummer. When we mull on that, then our brain chemistry changes. There's a study out there that if you are depressed, you have depression for over 2 years untreated, you could get irreversible dementia because it changes your brain chemicals. We don't talk about depression because we should always be happy, right? But sometimes we need something to help us in the situation, to get us out of the situation so that we can become functioning again, and that is okay. But that's a huge mimic. And sometimes we just don't realize we are depressed because of the situation we're in. Of course I'm depressed because this has happened in my life. But we need to make sure we find help. And then infection, urinary tract infection, a cold, anything that's infected in our body is trying to fight, and that's what our body is taken away from. So when we have an infection, that can cause dementia. One other thing that I don't have on here, because it actually could cause, we've had people that have gone under anesthesia, and then they come out with some dementia. They probably had it before, but really high functioning, and then they go under anesthesia. So if you do have a history, or you think that your loved one has dementia, and they are going under anesthesia, make sure your doctor is very aware of that. All right, so what can you do about it? So stay physically active, right? Cardio and strength training. You have to do both. They work two different things. So you want to make sure you're constantly staying active. And there's many different studies on how active you should be on both parts. Do what is fitting for you, but they always say, 10,000 steps per day. And so stay active. And I go to the gym, and I love going with my girlfriends. They make it more fun. We're all very competitive. And so I feel like I do more if I'm doing with my friends. So make sure that you guys are staying active. And there's some apps out there like Couch to 5K, which is pretty cool. We did that with my daughter because she didn't want to do a 5K, but we made her do a 5K. And so we did it slowly, and it was a lot of fun. Eat healthy. So the Mediterranean diet, no processed foods, is a great way to go, but that's kind of sometimes unrealistic, right, in our world. But if you're including whole grains, starchy foods, eat more fruits and vegetables, and then eat less red meat, more fish. The next one may not be the favorite, but less alcohol. You can't drink a lot of alcohol, and don't smoke, but they say 1 cup per day for not a cup of wine, but a serving of wine per day, 1 pint of beer. And so moderation, right? So if you stop smoking, drink less, that will help. Stay mentally active. So many people come up to me and say, well, I do Sudoku every day, and I do crossword puzzles every day. But your brain already knows that path. It already knows how to get from point A to point B. So you have to do something completely different. So if you're a word person, do numbers. If you're numbers, do words. All right, so I'm going to do one real quick. Everyone has to look at the screen, and I'm only going to give you a few seconds. And you're going to find all the F's, F, in the sentence. Ready? How many F's are in that sentence? Huh? 13 F's? 4? 8? 3? Oh, he's cheating. He has it right on his. and he still said 3, which is not right. All right. So it is 6. Because we don't, our brain doesn't hear of as an F. It does as a V. Brain teaser, right? All right. Another one is, in 1 minute, how many words can you come up with for each letter of the alphabet? Right? And you can make it harder where you can say, I'm only doing animals. I'm only doing fruits. I'm only doing things that you buy in a grocery store. I'm only doing names of people. When I do this for the MOCA, which is the cognition assessment, we have a couple rules where you can't do anything that's capitalized. So you couldn't say France or Frank, right? You can't say number, so you wouldn't be able to say 4 if F was your letter. And you can't do run-ons. So you can't say friend, friendly, friendlier. So we have some rules, but the goal is to get 11 or more for each letter of the alphabet. So this is a good one. And you can challenge your spouse, your kids, a friend. All right, here's a little quiz. A blind beggar had a brother who died. What relation was the blind beggar to the brother who died? Brother's not the answer. What's the answer? It is the sister. You guys are smart. And some of you are like, still don't get it. Right? Yep. So like some of these are pretty cool. And then here's one. You are driving a bus. At the first stop, 2 women get on. The second stop, 3 men get on, and 1 woman gets off. The third stop, 3 kids and their mom gets on, and a man gets off. The bus is gray, and it's raining outside. What color is the bus driver's hair? It's your own, because you are the bus driver. Yes. All right, here, I think this might be the last one. I have 2 U.S. coins that total 55 cents. One of them is not a nickel. What are the 2 coins? $50-cent piece and a nickel, because only one of them is not a nickel. Ah, nice. Yes. All right, so these are just some brain teasers, right, that work different parts of your brain, and they are fun. You can find these on the internet everywhere. All right, so when you're talking to someone who has dementia, the first part, and this is the hardest part for me because my mom always says, Mandy, you talk 90 miles a minute and I only hear 60. And so I have to talk really slow. But you have to talk slow because they only get maybe 4 out of 10 of your words. That's it. So if you're moderate to advanced dementia, and I'm not even going to say Alzheimer's, but dementia, they only get a few of your words. And what they're really getting is your visual cue. Visually is the number one way every single human takes in data. The number one way. So how I'm talking and how I'm presenting myself is how they're going to get what I'm saying. And if I actually have tactile cues, so I'm showing with my hand, hey, right? Then they're like, she's interested. Her eyebrows are up and she's waving me over, right? So they're going to get that, and I don't have to say anything. The next one is singing. Did you know that the part of the brain that is preserved is your rhythm and your music? So I can get someone to use the bathroom just by singing to them. I've done it. And it's amazing when you say, I will. Let's go to the bathroom. Let's walk this way. And it's rhythm, right? And that's all we're doing. Because if I talk to them, and that's the left side of the brain. How many of you were here last time when we did the whole left language, right rhythm, and we all had to shake our hips? Do you remember that? Left is language, and that's what's not preserved. It's left us. But rhythm is preserved. And so if we sing to them, and that's the brain, the part of the brain that comprehends, they better understand. Not that they will always understand, but they better understand. And it's amazing. Because they'll sit there and do nothing, but a song will come on, and they'll sing the whole entire song. And you go, whoa, they've been playing me this whole entire time. And they haven't. We just haven't been using the right part of their brain. So sing to them. Less. 4 words at a time. Hey, I need some help. Do you see how I slowed down and I broke it up into 3? And if I ask, and that's another one on here, I'm going past my slides, but if I slow down and break it up, and then we have to also internalize that it's okay to do this. Sometimes we feel ridiculous doing this, but it's okay. Because they will better understand us, and our relationship will be so much better with them. Dance. Dance with them. That's preserved. It's rhythm. Let's have fun. Dementia doesn't have to be horrible, right? So if we still have some of these capabilities, Let's do that. Let's have some fun. And again, that's my goal with everything that I do is how do I preserve the relationship between someone who has dementia and then someone who is caring for them. Visual cues, we talked about that. So if you're able to show them, point, or do a tactile, maybe touch their foot, that's the foot you want their sock on. If you give them a toothbrush and show them how to put the toothpaste on it, we don't have to do everything for them, right? Until we do. But until we don't, let them do things. But we have to have the right tools for ourselves so we can help them. Offer to help. Hey, I need some water. Do you mind getting 2 glasses? Right? Do you see how I did visual? I broke it up, I slowed it down, and I'm offering to help you drink that water because we don't drink enough water. But if I said, oh, you need some more water, how about you drink more water? You're going to say, no. I don't know how to initiate that next task. When you approach someone who has dementia, you want to approach from the front, and then you get to the side. Because if I'm approaching straight from the front, and that's how I am right next to you, that's called a confrontational stance. Because they cannot leave that stance. They want to walk forward, and their vision is here. So if I don't see anything on the side of me, I don't know that I can get to the side. And if that's my vision, and all I see is that person in front of me, that's a confrontational stance. So, but I do need to approach from the front, and as I'm approaching, I then get to the side. That's what we call a supportive stance, because then they can leave at any time that they want. And there's a whole pack training on that. All right, so then we get to the side. So when we're talking to someone who has dementia, these are the really important steps. And if you go, Mandy, I tried. I did your whole visual cues, and I talked slow. Typically, one of the things that you did was probably too much. When we do visual cues, you did not see my hand wavering around. It was or, right? It wasn't all over the place. Because I want them to really pay attention to that and nothing else. If I'm doing this and trying to talk, what do you think they're going to be taking note of? They're really like infants. They wanted that shiny stuff that's moving, and I want to get that attention. I want them to pay attention to this as well as this. So it has to be in the same frame. So senior options. How many of you are just dying to look for senior options right now, right? Move into a place. There's many senior options. So there's 55 and older, HUD housing. Okay. Then we have retirement independent communities. There's a couple of them named up here. These are all private pay, no state assistance, and no long-term care. Then we have independent assisted, where the assisted livings also cater to those who are independent, but probably need some care later on. The ones that are bolded do not take Medicaid state assistance. One thing I will tell you, if you are looking into a place that is ran by the state, as in that we have to have state survey come in every year, look at their state survey and look at their disclosure of services, because we're not all equal. We all work together, but we're not equal. We all get to choose what we want to do with our license. Then we have memory care. A lot of these are attached to the assisted living, and some are not. We have skilled nursing, which is a 24-hour RN on staff for medical purposes. Then we have adult family homes, which typically only has 6 residents, and they are all privately owned. And we probably have like 300 plus in Yakima alone. There's a lot. And then here's some of the costs. So the 55 and older depends on income if it's HUD housing. So it can go from $1,200 independent retirement up to $15,000 some places. How many of you are prepared to pay $15,000? It can get pretty expensive per month. Yep. So if you do not have long-term care or some type of backup, I'm not a financial advisor, but I would say do that. And that is what I have. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. That was fabulous. I could listen to you for a long time. You tell such a great story, and you help understand what can be a really difficult and scary time for a lot of people and their family members. And as a thank you, we're going to make a contribution in your name to Northwest Harvest. Thank you very much. A couple of things I want to say is how many of you have had your phone in your hand and you say, "Where is my phone? I just don't know where my phone is." And if any of you ask me to spell my last name, I'm going to know what you're doing. Can't misspell Black. But really, truly, that was so fabulous. Next 2 meetings, so remember next week, we are going to be here putting backpacks together. And then the following week, we're going to hear from the WAY program. And for those of you watching on Facebook Live and your members, I expect to see you here in person. And I would sing that, but you do not want to hear me sing the next meeting to you. After this meeting, once it closes, we have a mentorship retention after with Kelly Gasling and Erica Rudder. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you.